I think the conversations that we've learned to have throughout 2020, making sure that everything we do isn't about business and that we take that time to connect on a personal level.
Welcome to another episode of Friday 5 with Dave Adams. Today I'm going to be speaking with Amanda Craig, who is the Chief Experience Officer at Honor Credit Union, and Katie Berry, who is Chief People Officer. The credit union, Honor Credit Union, has 90,000 members and $1.2 billion in assets. The credit union is innovative in so many respects, but we're going to get a lot of great insights about how to create and enhance an organizational culture that attracts and retains the best talent, and how that intersects with excellent member experience. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this conversation with Amanda Craig and Katie Berry from Honor Credit Union. Well, Amanda and Katie, welcome to Friday 5.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave. Thank you.
It's great having you on. I've really been looking forward to the discussion for a lot of reasons. Honor Credit Union and my friend, your CEO, Scott McFarland, but the entire team there have done such a fabulous job of growing the credit union and being innovative in so many ways. I'm really looking forward to talking about the emphasis on member experience and how you're improving your culture as a Chief People Officer, Katie. So let's get right to it. So the 5 questions this quarter we're sticking with the discussion about organizational culture and creating that climate for our teams that where people thrive, where they want to come to work, where they're engaged, passionate about what they do. So I'm going to start with you, Amanda, and then ask for your insights, Katie. But the important considerations of what drives a great company culture at Honor Credit Union, Amanda.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Really, its culture is driven by everyone on our leadership team. We're all responsible for it. So Scott, the CEO, he defines our culture, but really everyone on the leadership team is responsible for inspiring and leading the culture. And it's really fun to be a part of the culture because I enjoy inserting myself with Katie and her team to help lead that culture, constantly be a part of it. And really it's everyone has to know where we're going. So we have a 1-page strategy and a commitment book. And so if the teams aren't informed about what's happening and what's going on, then it's hard to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Well, so Katie, your title, as I look at your bio, you've been responsible for human resources and you were promoted to Vice President of HR in 2017. And then in August of 2020, your title was enhanced and revised to be Chief People Officer. So as I ask for your insights on culture, which you share responsibility for, maybe talk about the reason for that title change, but also give us your insights on what constitutes a great company culture.
Sure, absolutely. The Chief People Officer title comes similar to a vice president role, but making sure that people is part of every business decision that we make. So the impact on our team, the impact on our members, and just having that gut check, I would say, and that voice of the people, part of all of those strategic discussions and decisions. With Amanda touched on the 1-page strategy, we have commitments that really lay out how we expect everyone to live. And it creates this common language that's easy to say, I understand I am Honor and I understand my role as a team member at Honor. So this is where everyone has that role in living the culture.
Yeah, and you both have alluded to the fact that that it starts with the CEO, and for CEOs, we're not all made the same way. You know, being the one who is responsible for company culture is not always the easiest thing for CEOs because we all have different personalities. But I really loved how you said the CEO should see that as his or her primary responsibility, but it has to be done as a team. And so I love how you're structured there with a Chief Experience Officer and Chief People Officer, and you said the leadership team and Scott are all involved in really setting the tone for culture and making sure that it happens. Amanda, I might just do an offshoot question though, because there aren't that, I think it's becoming more and more common, but I think Honor was one of the first to establish a chief experience officer position. Why was that done, and how has that made a difference in the way that you are approaching member experience?
I think it's just redefining the way that we approach it by, I'm an advocate for the members. And so I'm constantly looking for, and the teams, what are those friction points that the members experience? Are we doing everything on behalf of them? The members are the owners, right? So we've got to take good care of them. And so are we making decisions that are good for the member and good for the credit union? So approaching it that way, that everyone should be working together for the common good of the betterment of the members, their experience, their financial success. So it's really fun to be able to approach it that way instead.
Katie, I might ask you, maybe ask you both to elaborate a little bit on this notion of how we treat our people and how we foster a great culture intersects with how we treat our members through the member experience. Maybe Katie, if you can speak to that first, and then Amanda.
Sure, there's a great quote, I think it was Richard Branson, you take care of your people and they'll take care of your business, or something to that effect. I think that's something that we really focus on, is people over process or profit. So that means that when we're looking at shifting how we do something, what is the impact on our member, and then what is the impact on our team? So we don't ever want to change something to make it harder for our members in order to make it easier for our team. So it's that balance and still driving forward in an efficient and effective manner. So making sure that all of those are components, but leading with the people thought first.
I love that. Amanda, what are your thoughts on how the two intersect?
Yeah, I mean, when we say people over process and profit, it's the people, the team members on the team, and it's the people, our members. So we want to do what's best for the team and for the members. And so really that guides our decisions. And this is something that the team is, they know that that's our priority.
That's great. So, Katie, I might turn to you with the second question about the important considerations for human resources management. We all understand that there are many important facets that start with job descriptions and hiring and onboarding, that lead to training and development and compensation and benefits management, and certainly all of the different facets that contribute to a great culture. My question, I guess, is at Honor right now, which of those human resources functions maybe are you most focused on improving? How are you doing that? Or which are kind of most challenging right now? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
I don't think you can ignore any of them. I think they all go hand in hand. So as soon as you focus on one, it bleeds into the others, and maintaining all of them at once is a challenge. I think the thing that probably has shifted the most over the last 18 months would be job descriptions, because they're ever evolving, ever changing. 2020 brought a lot of changes to how we do things. So making sure that we write job descriptions in a clear enough way that everyone understands their expectations and their responsibilities, but also leaves that opportunity for those other duties as assigned as part of each job.
Great. Amanda, your thoughts when you think of the various human resource management functions, how are they changing?
I have to laugh at other duties as assigned. We like to use that all the time. We say, oh yeah, that falls under other duties as assigned. But I think we do it in fun, but we all know that we're all responsible, right, for the success. So we step in wherever we can. From my perspective, it's really taking care of the team and just continually showing them that we want them to be here, that we're supporting them, we're behind them. And Katie takes care of all the technical serious stuff, but it's really more about making sure the team knows that we're here and we appreciate them. And how are we constantly showing that and demonstrating that to them?
Great. So we're going to talk about work from home as a separate question. So let's leave that out of it for now. But other than work from home and the idea of a hybrid approach to working from home. What are some of the other things that have been most challenging for HR management and strengthening culture during this COVID environment, and maybe some lessons learned? Maybe start with you, Katie.
Ooh, that's a big question. And when leaving the work from home component out of it is a challenge, because one of the biggest challenges is how you connect with people differently. So outside of the individual being able to come to work, just having that interaction with someone to make sure that they're okay and understanding where they are. And I think the conversations that we've learned to have throughout 2020 and now in this new environment is making sure that everything we do isn't about business, and that we take that time to connect on a personal level. And that opportunity to see someone in person is really a great opportunity. So we did some pretty creative things in 2020, making sure that when we hear that little shift in their voice or that feeling of, oh, this is a big deal. How am I going to make it through this? Or I'm struggling right now, even if it's personally and not professionally, finding unique ways to show a little bit of appreciation or just a little thought of, I'm thinking about you. So we've done things from dropping things off unexpectedly at team members' houses. We had a lot of unique, I'll say, pay it forward opportunities from the credit union to our team in 2020. So there was a lot of opportunity as well as a challenge, but I think the personal connection is still one of the biggest challenges.
I think you're right, Katie. I'm going to kind of phrase this differently. I think it's impossible to talk about the COVID environment and challenges and lessons learned without also talking about work from home. So that's fair game. Maybe when we get to the work from home more deeply, I'll shift more to what you think Honor Credit Union's outlook is for how the new world's going to be post-COVID vis-a-vis working from home. But Amanda, your thoughts on COVID, maybe lessons learned, maybe some opportunities that have come out of it with regard to strengthening and enhancing culture.
Yeah, so thinking past just the team at Honor, but what about our communities? And that's been something that's been top of mind for us, of how do we continue to support our communities? How do we continue to participate in a thriving community? So Katie talked about the pay it forward. We gave them almost $35,000 to our team members throughout the year last year. We would identify who our business partners were in their local geographic region and ask them to go pick up dinner from them, or spend the money there. We also did over $500,000 total in unexpected givebacks to our team last year. Those were in the forms of the pay it forward, special bonuses, frontline premium pay, and designated COVID time off. And so it's really just continuing to show the team we appreciate you in these unique, challenging times. And we know you're feeling fatigued and lonely, and we've all felt the gamut of emotions. And so how do we continue to just show that support to them during these times?
So important. I'm glad that you talked about that and emphasized it, because employee wellness and employee health during these challenges, it really goes far beyond how they do their work, right? It's the issues with their children. And in some cases, their kids are not in school, or challenges with daycare, and so many things, not being able to have in-person graduation ceremonies. And I just think there's a heightened sensitivity, or should be, on the part of leadership to listen to employees and understand the concerns. And I think it's very evident that that's how you're approaching it. So let's circle back to work from home a little more deeply, and maybe talk in terms of where do you see this settling as the population gets vaccinated and we get back to some kind of a new normal of doing business. Where do you see Honor settling in terms of how you approach positions that can be functions that can be performed remotely from home versus not?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one.
Please, Katie.
We are actively working on our blended work strategy. So one of the things that we've really focused on is the way that we did business in January of 2020, we know is going to be different than when we get the opportunity to go back into the office. And while there's a lot of challenges that remote work brings, there's also a lot of benefit to it. So someone who used to be driving an hour to and from work each day, you mentioned kids, they have kids that need to be dropped off in various places, and then they get that call that they need to check in on their child at daycare. So this alleviates some of the stress if they have the opportunity to work remotely. So our blended work strategy is evaluating each position to make sure, yes, the functions of this job can be effectively done from home, and we can manage or mitigate any risks or performance concerns, and then looking at the individual within that role. So they have plenty of experience, they've successfully performed up to this point, have no performance concerns, and those are the positions that people will have the opportunity to continue to be remote or to have some flexibility in their schedule for remote some days, in office other days.
That's great. And that's actually the first time, I hate to admit it, the first time I've heard the term blended work strategy. I've heard hybrid work from home and different terms. I like that because that really does reflect how I think we all should be approaching this on a position by position basis. So Amanda, what are your thoughts on maybe what has been learned, or where you think Honor is going to settle in on approaching work from home, work from anywhere?
Yeah, I think what we've really done is we've been gracious, and we've recognized that kids are at home and there are no other options. I mean, you have no place to go, and so we've put some temporary policies into place to allow for more flexibility. I don't see those always being here as we can start going back out into the world. Definitely, we miss that collaboration, right? We miss the water cooler talk. We miss popping into each other's offices. There's so much that all those little details and the ways that we can support each other and help, we miss those. So there will be a blended, a hybrid, whatever you want to call it, for those of us who can. And we'll just have to keep going, right? Day by day, see what works and be agile, flexible, and adjust if it's not working.
And I want to ask a follow-up with you, Amanda. It's unique to have a conversation with a chief people officer and a chief experience officer. And I realize that everything we're talking about is intertwined. But let's talk just for a moment about your thoughts on the member experience and improving it. We've all heard horror stories, and in some cases, we've experienced it ourselves with credit unions and other financial institutions. Long wait times on a call center, or long waits in branches, or tedious processes for loan origination. Where are you finding the most important areas for improving member experience at Honor Credit Union? The areas, the friction points, or the challenges that you think you need to be most focused on?
I would say that it's constantly being a part of our members' lives. And so along the way, are we on their journey with them through life to meet their goals? And so are we staying in touch with them? Are we top of mind because we've done something to gain their trust and respect along the way? And so I think it's really, we're focusing on our member journey and how do we continue to stay engaged with the member along the way to make sure that they're informed, they know what we can do for them, we're offering it to them, all those various things. So it's a pretty big undertaking, but I would say that sums it up.
It's a great vision, though. It's really working to make members feel special and cared for, and go beyond the transaction, right? Treat them as something more than a loan transaction or a checking account transaction. Okay, well, so let's wrap up with this question. As I started out, I commented that my perception is that Honor Credit Union is a credit union that is very innovative and creative in how it approaches all the topics that we're covering today, but so many others. And so when you think about human resource management and culture, we've been talking about some unique things that you do at the credit union, but when you think about disruptive ideas, outside the box things that you think lie ahead, are there some things that you're thinking about, or there's some things that you've recently implemented? Katie.
So one of the things I'm most excited about. So in 2020, obviously there was a lot of, we'll say, turmoil in regards to racial discussions, political discussions. So we knew we couldn't be silent on that, and we had to create an opportunity for our team to be heard. So we hosted a couple of listen, learn, and love conversations hosted by two of our team members, one a minority and one a former minority police officer. So their perspective and I'll call it the venue that was created via Zoom, of course, for that respectful conversation to understand different perspectives was huge. And it ultimately led to our new commitment being created for 2021, which is Cultivate, Peace, and Love. So not something that you typically hear from business lingo. That word love as an HR professional is one that makes me feel a little funny. But really we knew it needed to be different, and it wouldn't be us if it was your traditional diversity and inclusion words in there. So really excited to roll that out and work through our diversity and inclusion goals while we're using that commitment to build our future and our culture.
That's great. I'm going to circle back to that because that's such an important topic. But first, I want to go to you, Amanda, and get your thoughts on outside the box or disruptive things that I don't want you to give away all of your secrets, but maybe comment on some things that you think the credit union is going to be looking at in the future.
Well, we've talked about freaky at the credit union. So how do we, we're in a time of chaos, and how do we take those opportunities to try new things? And so really looking at how do we become better than before? And sometimes that means you don't even look at what we have today, and we just dream and build something new without trying to just build upon what we have. But how do we start fresh? How do we come up with new ways to do things, new ways to serve members? So I don't have any specifics for you, Dave, but that's the mindset we're taking, and really just trying to make sure that we're being freaky.
I love that. I love the term itself suggests that we're headed into areas that no one has gone before, sort of like Star Trek. Freaky. And I love the listen, learn, and love sessions. And I wanted to wrap up there with just a quick perspective. We've done something similar to that with our organization. But something that's been on my mind recently is that we come at these listen, learn, and love sessions to build sensitivity to the unique challenges for people of color. And certainly our work associates of color, we need to hear from them. We need, as white associates, we need to understand the unique challenges of everyone.
What you said, I think, really speaks to what we try to do with our commitment. So creating that sense of belonging and kindness, I think, are really things that we need to make sure that we're driving as an expectation, and there's really zero tolerance for anything else. So that's where our focus is on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then the education components that go with it, and making sure that we're taking the opportunity to really serve the underserved populations, and not only internally, but externally too, so that it's more of learning, I would say, than anything from what we're trying to do with our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals.
Awesome. Amanda.
Thanks. So I recently read The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates, and she says in there, love is the most powerful and underused force for change in the world. And to me, that just really sums it up. I think when we love ourselves, when we love others, non-romantically, it shows that we respect them, right? And that respect cultivates peace. And so we can have different views. We don't all have to agree. I mean, it's fun to debate sometimes in a kind manner with each other, but it's really about, I think, you got to love yourself before you can accept and love others. And so that's, it's a simple answer, but it sounds easy. It's not, obviously, because we haven't done it, but
I think you both pretty much summed it up by saying, if you have the answers, if we had all those answers, there wouldn't be any hate or poverty or war we're not going to get to perfection. But I do think that what we're really emphasizing here is that you can't talk about organizational culture in today's world without talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you can't really foster a great culture unless everyone feels respected. And my wrap up on that would be, you know, the taboo issues are politics and religion. We're told to never bring up politics and religion. And yet it's often politics and religion that forms who we are and how we think. And I think what we need to be able to do is make sure that in a culture, it's not about whether you're religious or atheist or agnostic. It's not about whether you're Republican or Democrat. What it's about is avoiding the extremes in our society and to respect people regardless of gender or color or sexual orientation or any other difference. And I think it's extremely challenging, but fun to be working in a climate that we're in, where we can celebrate love and diversity like you've described, and work to have a better organizational culture. So I'm glad we summed up with that, and I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of notes, and what I love about this series and talking about leaders like you, Amanda and Katie, is that it helps us all understand why credit unions that are successful are growing and thriving and doing so well. It's because you're doing all the things that you're talking about today. So thank you for sharing those ideas, and thanks for being on Friday 5 with Dave Adams. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks for
Dave,
having us.
Wow, what a great conversation with Amanda and Kate from Honor Credit Union. I love the reference to the listen, learn, and love sessions to understand how diversity, equity, and inclusion issues are so integral to fostering a great culture. The reference to people over process and profits clearly helps their associates understand that is the credit union way, that we're focused on member experience. How we treat each other in our organizational culture directly relates to how we take care of members. So another great episode of Friday 5 with Honor Credit Union, represented by Amanda Craig and Katie Berry. We look forward to future episodes. Thank you for watching.